Gottfried with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and this is Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast. Today, a legendary singer and actor who's worked with Bob Hope, Bing Crosby, Groucho Marx, Jackie Gleason, John Wayne, Lucille Ball, and Jack Benny, just to name a few. My fellow teen idol, Frankie Avalon. Our guest today went from trumpet player to a teen idol selling millions of records to sharing the big screen with Groucho Marx, Bob Hope, and John Wayne, not to mention Boris Karloff, Ernie Koufax, and Buster Keaton. Please welcome to the show the original teen idol, Frankie Avalon.
Thank you. Why are you yelling? But a good yell, though. I got to say that. Well, thank you very much. It's really nice to be with you and Frank and kind of talk about things that have been part of my life, I guess.
Now, we have something in common, both being teen idols. But how did it happen for you?
Actually, it happened, I was with a band. I was a trumpet player. I started as a trumpet player. And I was with a band called Rocco and his Saints. And I played trumpet. And we used to play this one place in Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, called Murray's Inn. And people kind of would come up to the stage and say, "Hey, Frankie, can you play this? Hey, Frankie, can you play that? And Frankie, can you sing this? Frankie, can you sing that?" And finally, Rocco, who was the leader of the band, said to me, "You got to start singing." I said, "Hey, you paid me as a trumpet player. That's what I do." He said, "I'll give you an extra $5." I said, "I'll do it." And that's how I really started. And, of course, a new record company came along, Chancellor Records, and they came in to see one of our shows there. We used to do 5 sets a night. We went down to Atlantic City, and we started playing these little clubs. They came in, and they signed our band, and we recorded. The first record we did was called Cupid Shot an Arrow, which I did the vocal on. And the other side was called Jivin' with the Saints. And it came out, and nothing really happened with it, except that they put me out there. He bought me a $12 suit, and they put me out there, and I started to go around the country doing these record hops and things, and kids started to say, "How can we write to you? What's your fan club? How this?" And all of a sudden, my manager at the time, Bob Marcucci, said, "I think you got something these kids like." And that started it.
And how did the big break come with Jackie Gleason?
That happened, I was about 11 years old, and I went to see a movie called Young Man with the Horn, and I just fell in love with the sound of the trumpet, and I guess I related to the young boy who really grew up to be the best trumpet player in the world, and I related to that, and I came out of the movie. I was there all day. My mom used to pack
Douglas
a lunch.
Movie.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas, and pack a lunch, and I would stay there, and I watched the movie all day, and I came home, and I said to my dad, "Dad, can you buy me a trumpet?" He said, "You want to play trumpet?" Because he loved music, my father. I said, "Yeah." And he went to a pawn shop. He got me a horn, and I took the horn into my bedroom, and I didn't come out until I played my first song. That started it.
But the way you met Gleason, Jackie Gleason.
Yeah. Well, what happened was Al Martino, who is from the neighborhood of South Philadelphia, was a big star at this time.
Johnny Fontaine in The Godfather.
Exactly, yeah. But he had this one song called "Here in My Heart," which was number one around the world. And in the neighborhood, they were giving him a party for his success, and there was crowds all around, to these row homes and little streets in South Philadelphia there. And I took my horn, and I wiggled my way through, and I knocked on the door. A guy opened the door, and I said, "Could I play my trumpet for Al Martino?" They said, "Who are you?" I said, "My name is Frank Avaloni. I live around the corner." He said, "Come on in." And the party was really happening. I took out the horn, I started to play, and it's like an old movie, Everybody kind of stopped. And I played very well for a little kid. And Al Martino said to the guys his house he was at, said, "Who was this kid?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "His name is Avalon. He lives around the neighborhood." He said, "Let's call his mother and father, see if we could take him to New York. I think this kid can play." So they did. My mom and dad agreed, and they took me into New York. And I went to a big agency at the time called GAC, General Artists Corporation. And Jack Sobel was the agent, and I took out the horn, and I played for him. He said, I got an idea. This kid plays good. We handle Jackie Gleason. He's got a penthouse at the Sheraton Hotel. We'll go and take him, and he'll play for Jackie. Loves the trumpet, Jackie. So I go in there, and the writers are there and this, and Gleason wasn't there. Well, it was a penthouse. I didn't know where he was, but I took out my horn, and I started to play. In the corner of my eye, I see Gleason come out of the room. I finished the song, and he yells down, write a show, I want him on in 2 weeks. And that was it.
So what was Gleason like to work with?
He was phenomenal. First of all, his mind, he knew everybody's lines and everything. He was a genius, really, And he was a wonderful guy, very quiet, really a quiet kind of a guy. I worked with him not only that time as a young boy playing trumpet, but I also did his show later on in his life, in my life, out of Florida.
Oh, the Miami Beach show.
The Miami
Gleason
Beach show, yeah. And of course, and we had just finished doing a picture together, and I spent a lot of time with him. And I had a picture was called Skidoo. And I'll tell you,
Gilbert and I are well familiar with it.
Yes,
It's come up before on the podcast.
Right.
Is that right?
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Frank and I are big fans.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now Otto Preminger directed it, and I had heard a lot of stories about Otto Preminger as a director being really tough, and I didn't know exactly what to expect. But the first day of shooting, for me, I had no dialogue, and it was where I was supposed to drive this car, and Arnold Stang was in the scene, and as I hit my mark and all this, all of a sudden I hear Preminger that everybody talked about saying, "What are you doing? You're not an actor," to Arnold Stang, to John Philip Law, and all this other stuff. So now comes the second, third day of shooting, and we're up in San Francisco, and I've got a scene with Cesar Romero, Jackie Gleason, Carol Channing. And I've got a couple of lines, and Gleason says to me something, and he smacks me across the face. And Preminger said, "Go over and practice, the slap." So I go with Gleason, and Jackie says, "Pally," he says, "vaudeville. Just when I touch your face, just go. Go." I said, "Okay, Jackie, that's fine." Now it comes to the scene, and Preminger says, "Roll 'em and action." All of a sudden, he smacked me across the face. Are you kidding?
Gleason did.
Yeah.
Wow.
My ears were ringing. Finally, after about 4 or 5 takes, they had to stop makeup, and because I had fingerprints all over my face, Jackie. "Vaudeville," I said, "Jackie?" "Yeah, oh, yeah." Now we finished the picture, and I'm doing Jackie's show down in Miami. And I go into his dressing room. He says, "Have you seen the picture?" I said, "Yeah." He hadn't seen it yet. Yeah. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Jackie, it's embarrassing." He said, "Really?" He said, "Oh, my God. I listened to Preminger. I went with him, everything he wanted me to do." He said, "Will I be embarrassed to go to the opening, the premiere?" I said, "Yeah." I really was that honest with him.
Yeah.
Because the picture, I thought,
Horrible.
It's
terrible.
It's one of the great bad movies of all time.
And we
got a tremendous cult following for how
yeah,
bad
I know.
it is. Yeah.
We had Leon Shamroy, who was the lighting director. He did all Marilyn Monroe pictures. I mean, we had the best. The cast, as you know.
Sure. Everybody's in it. Frank Clark and Cesar Romero and Frank Gorshin.
And he just, hey, let's face it, he had no sense of humor.
Well, he wasn't known for directing comedies.
No.
And I should throw in the John Philip Law quick bit of information that for people who don't remember John Philip Law, very, very handsome leading man. And he was offered 2 movies at the same time. One was Skidoo, and the other was Midnight Cowboy.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a choice, huh?
Yeah, and I guess he felt, hey,
well, listen,
Jackie Gleason and Groucho Marx.
Right.
And how about Otto Preminger?
Right.
Yeah.
These guys' credits were incredible.
Sure.
The funny thing is, he wouldn't even see me for the role.
You played a mobster's son. You played Angie.
Right. But he wouldn't see me, and my agent, who is still my agent, every film I've ever done, he made the deal for me, is Jack Gilardi. And he said, I got an idea. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he doesn't want to see you because he says, I don't want this beach boy in my picture. You know. He said, I'm going to say it's Frank Avalon.
Oh.
So I said, Jack, you can't do that. He said, listen to me. So we go to Paramount Studios. I go to big office, big desk, and Otto Preminger sitting behind the desk there. And I walk in, and Gleason's Preminger says to me, "What are you bringing me this beach boy?" So I sat down, and in no longer than 10 minutes, he said, "Okay, you got the part. I'll talk to your agent," and that was it.
Now, you worked there, one of the many times you worked with him, because just last night I was watching a clip of you on You Bet Your Life singing "I Can't Give You Anything But Love" with Groucho.
Yeah.
Tell us about Groucho Marx.
Well, he was, I as later on in years, because I did a lot of the game shows at those times. A lot of guys would do these game shows, and Groucho did a lot of them too. Not only You Bet Your Life, guest appearances, and I always kind of said, he's a dirty old man. I mean, he looked at every dame that was out there. Look at their legs, look at this, and he always had remarks, of course, and all crummy, dirty remarks. Sure. Oh, God.
When you did You Bet Your Life, I mean, and he comes back into your life all these years later.
Yeah.
In Skidoo. That had to be strange.
Absolutely. I mean, all through the years, the guys that I've worked with, one time or another, it amazes me. And when I think back on all those things that I've done, I say, wow, I was with the best. I was with guys that, and I really became a student of the art of trying to act and watch these guys and how they work the camera and all this other stuff. I'd sit on my chair there and just watch all these guys and how they did it, because they were pros, all 100% pro.
And before we turn the mics on, I remember I was basically saying, shut up, Frankie. You save all this for the show. And tell us about Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, my absolute idol, and of course everybody else's too. But he was incredible. He, I got to hang with him, which was really kind of neat, and stay at his house, And amazing about him is that when I would stay at his house, he had these casitas, they were called, and the little houses, and he would call one would be My Way, the other one
was this the Palm Springs place?
Yeah, in Palm Springs. I would stay there. And you had access to 24-hour whatever you wanted. I don't care if you wanted a car or this, anything that you wanted, you got, And you wouldn't see Sinatra. Frank would only come out about 5:30 at night, and we'd have dinner or go someplace and have dinner. But all day you'd stay by his pool or go play golf or whatever it is, and he just wouldn't see you until he wanted to see you. And many times I stayed up with him where he was drinking, and you had to stay, and you try to sneak out. Where you going? And you listen to his stories and all this other stuff. He was what an artist, though. I mean, he was just brilliant,
You were telling how he used to learn his songs.
Yeah, James Darren, we're from the same neighborhood in South Philadelphia, and we're very good friends, and he's really close to the Sinatra family. And I said to him, Jimmy, Sinatra, how did he learn songs? I said, because, we're both musicians, so we could read music. And he said, well, they would play him songs, and he would say, I want to do that one. And then they would give him the lyrics, and he would take the lyrics alone for 2 weeks and just read it like a book. And after the 2 weeks of really learning what that song was all about and the concept of the writer and the lyrics, then he would get involved with getting a piano player and starting to learn the music end of it.
And I remember a story that hearing Boris Karloff taught Frank Sinatra, he said, you sing with your voice. You have to learn to act with your voice. And Boris Karloff used to give Frank Sinatra acting lessons.
Really?
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah, his daughter told us that.
Wow.
Sarah Karloff.
Karloff, yeah. Well, I worked with Karloff, too.
Yeah, was it Muscle Beach Party? One of the beach movies.
One of the beach things, yeah. He was in a couple of them, I think.
Oh, was he?
I don't know. They were all
They all run together for you, don't they?
Exactly. All the same.
Did you get to know Karloff at all?
No. I mean, I talked with him a bit, but, we were so busy. We did those pictures in 15 days. So, I mean, I was learning. I was playing dual roles, this, that, and other. And, I just kind of small conversation.
Let's go back to South Philly for a minute. We'll get to the beach movies. I'm not sure where that sound suddenly came from.
I think that's Karloff.
It might be. So many people came out of South Philly, where you're from, particularly singers. Eddie Fisher, Mario Lanza, Bobby Rydell, who we were talking about before we turned the mics on, Chubby Checker.
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
Buddy Greco.
Greco, Al Martino.
Yeah, all of them. I don't know. I think, when you're from a neighborhood, all different kinds of ethnic groups, music, whether it be Jewish, Italian, black, whatever it may be, everybody sang, everybody liked music, and I think it was just the run of the time, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just recently, your co-star, Ned Funicello, passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And could you tell us some memories? I heard, unlike so many movie teams who hate each other off camera, you two actually loved each other.
Well, when I first met Annette, before we even started doing films together, we were doing a show for Dick Clark at the Hollywood Bowl. And she was about 15. I was a little older than Annette. And I thought she was awfully cute. And I asked if I could give her a call and maybe take her on a date or something, And she gave me her number, and I called. And, of course, I had to go to the house and meet the mom and dad. And I took her to have a slice of pizza, and that was our first meeting. And then later on in years, they cast me to do Frankie in the first beach party. And I said, "Who's playing Dee Dee?" What was the character's name? They said, Annette Funicello. I said, "Oh, great." And the first scene we did together, I said to the director, Bill Asher, I said, this is really going to be a lot of fun. And it was. And we had the best time. We made about 7-8 pictures together, a lot of television together. And we never had an argument, never a disagreement. It was just a wonderful friendship. And it's a shame that she had this disease that was so debilitating. And it was a terrible life for her, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, Disney always had a habit of finding these cute girls who would later on become objects of lust to any boy out there.
Yeah.
Like Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez and all those. And it's she, I don't think she was trying to be a sex symbol.
Never.
But everyone noticed she was developing each movie.
Quickly. And largely. No, she was a great-looking gal and never played on it, She had that that was it.
And when did you said, I think you first noticed something was wrong during Back to the Beach, which was a takeoff on your movies.
Yeah, well, first of all, she had gotten very thin for that role, And most women always want to look, lighter pounds-wise because of the screen. It puts some extra weight on you. But she was very thin, and...
this is around 87 now, Back to the Beach,
yeah. And, she did very well. She's very good in that picture. And we had finished shooting, but we had to do a lot of promo stuff. So we would go and do some things in front of the camera, promoting our film and the cue cards. And she couldn't see. And finally, she was stumbling around when we were shooting on the beach, and I said, we don't have our sand legs anymore, whatever it was. And finally, she went and went to an optometrist for her eyes, and that's when she was diagnosed with MS. And then we went on the road, and her husband said to me, he said, he used to call me Little Buddy. He'd say, "Hey, Little Buddy, can I meet you a little earlier?" Because we were rehearsing, putting our show together for the road theaters. And I said, "Sure." So I got there about an hour earlier than our call time to rehearse. And he sat down. He said, I want to tell you something. I want you to be very quiet about this. I don't want you to say anything, not even to her. But she has a disease, MS. And I went, what? And that was it.
Mm-hmm. You guys are a great team, such great chemistry and such energy. And she was saying before, she was a very vibrant performer, very lively.
Yeah, terrific gal.
And also, what's so funny about that movie, Back to the Beach, is it's you and Annette like poking fun at yourself.
Right.
Oh, yeah, they sort of took the Brady Bunch movie approach where they did a parody of the beach movies.
Right, yeah.
I love when you're using the kid's head as a battering ram.
Right. Funny scene.
And everybody turned up in that. I mean, Don Adams is in it, and Bob Denver, and Alan Hale, and Pee-wee.
Yeah. They all. Pee-wee loved our original films.
Yeah.
And when we had asked him to do it, because he was very hot at the time with the Playhouse.
Sure.
And he came on, and we just loved him. He's a wonderful guy, talented guy, and it was a great scene in there. Another great scene is with Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Oh, yeah.
And Dick Dale.
Oh, sure.
What a combination.
Pipeline.
Yeah. What a great
great.
scene.
The song's great. You can find the video on YouTube, and it's worth watching.
Terrific.
And once again, I have to ask you about another performer, because you worked with all of them, and that's the great Jack Benny.
Oh, Benny was wonderful. I did my first meeting with him and working with him was the Jack Benny Show. And it was a nice, cute little show about me recording, and he's never been to a recording session, and he comes in and he does all these things in the studio. But after that, he said, Frankie, I want you to work with me in Las Vegas. I want you to open for me, which I did. And I loved working with him because he would give me such, advice. Like we would do a sketch. He would say to me, Frankie, now, why is it that all singers are Italian? And I say, that's right, Mr. Benny. And I say, Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Al Martino. And he said, well, we have a lot of Jewish singers, too. So I'd say, okay. And he'd say, well, like Tony Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. So now he would say to me, now wait until I come back to you to read your next line. Okay, so I would say Sammy Davis Jr. and he would do his little take, all the way, and come back to me. And then he'd say to me, "Funny his uncle wasn't." Now, he was great to work with too, and all that frugal stuff about him, being a cheap guy and all this. At the end of the performance, he gave me a pair of cufflinks that were beautiful sapphires, and very generous man.
And I heard everyone said Benny was like the nicest person.
Just terrific.
Yeah, he was beloved.
Yeah, and not as opposite Lucy. Lucy, when you would go in to read I did a few Lucy shows. You'd go around with the writers and whoever's in the cast and so forth, and pencils are all over the place, and you make changes, and she would make changes constantly. Benny would just sit there and say, "That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good." He'd accept it because he trusted the writers.
I heard Benny was also like brilliant as far as he would hear a joke, it would get a tremendous laugh, and he'd say, "That's a really great joke, but it just doesn't fit in with the show."
He could be, yeah. A lot of performers are like that. It's good, but it's not for me. It's not what I represent. You got to be careful. If you do have a path and a way for your career, and you believe it, you got to stick with it. Otherwise, you just don't go off and because there's some off-color humor that you're going to do that. I learned a long, long time ago. A cheap joke is not worth it. Do something.
Well, then I would have no career whatsoever.
It's true.
One writer that I worked with, and I loved him, his name was Bobby O'Brien, and he wrote for Lucy and a lot of other people too. And he would say to me, don't do cheap jokes. Say something that maybe isn't a belly laugh or a laugh, but let them take you home. Let them talk about you and what you said around the table in the morning,
And so Lucy was a bit of a general on the set, huh?
Oh,
controlling everything, every detail.
She'd say, "Come up stage a little more, Frankie. Play to this camera here. Do that." I mean, she knew everything.
Yeah.
Of course, she learned it from Desi.
Of course,
and she loved Desi to the day they both went.
And he invented the multiple camera.
Oh yeah,
format.
Yeah, we were talking to Robert Osborne from Turner Classic Movies, and well, I mean, everyone knows like Desi Arnaz was like this unsung genius. Everything we know about TV, he invented, and he said that after they divorced, after he was cheating on her and everything, she still remained in love.
In love. I mean, Lucy. I really got to know her, and as an example, I would talk to her. We would come back from a plane trip or something on the flight, and she would talk about Desi and tell me how brilliant he was. An example with Desilu Studios, she told me that in his broken English, on the floor had plans of where cameras were going to go and this, and she was thrilled to just tell me about all this other stuff, and she really did love him all the time. That love never left. I was doing a show in Vegas, and Lucy came in to see me, and I was doing I tried to do something a little bit different, a little dramatic thing in my show. And Lucy came back after the show, and she said, "Take that number out." I said, "Which number, Lucy?" She said, "The one about the kids." I said, but Lucy, I'm trying to establish something that's a little more dramatic for me. She said, "I don't want to hear that song, and neither does the audience." I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, listen to what you're saying. It was a song that Sonny and Cher did called 'You Better Sit Down, Kids. I'll tell you why, kids. Your mother and I, kids, don't see eye to eye, kids.'" It's about a divorce.
Yeah.
She said to me, "You know how many people are out there that are going through that?" She said, "Take it out." And she was right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now I got to ask you about another hero of mine, Peter Lorre.
Oh, I love Peter. He constantly would say to me, "I love Italians." Of course, he loved wine. He was a big wine drinker. Yeah. And Walter Pidgeon, and working.
Oh, yeah, on
those
Voyage
two
to the
guys.
Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sure. We'll get to that too.
Okay.
Yeah. Before I just want to get to all the movies, but let's just go back a second and talk about how you go from Teen Idol to movies. I mean, you make Dee Dee Dinah's the first hit,
right?
And first of all, is it true that you held your nose while you were recording
Well, I
that?
sang through my nose.
Okay.
That's the way I did
Right.
it, because to me it was a very staccato arrangement, and everybody's kind of learning their parts and all this other stuff. And after a while, I'm singing, "I love my Dinah, Dee Dee Dinah, love my Dinah." Then after a few rehearsals, and my Dinah, Dee Dee Dinah, love my Dinah, Dee Dee, and the producer said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. It sounds very staccato." He said, "Do it like that." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, it's a gimmick sound. Let's do it."
That was a song you didn't like.
No, I didn't like it.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
And of course, they put it out, and it was my first hit.
Right. And then how did we get to Venus, which changed everything?
Venus happened because, again, in the neighborhood, there was a knock on the door, and I was in South Philly, and I opened the door, and the guy introduced himself. He said, "My name is Ed Marshall. I'm a songwriter. Can I play a song for you?" I said, "Yeah, come on in." I had a piano, and he sat down at the piano, and he played dee-da-da-dee-da, dee-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and he starts singing this "Venus, goddess of love that you are." And so I went, what, "Play that again, please." He plays it again. I called the record company right there, and I said, "I got a song. You've got to hear this song. I'm going to bring him over to," because the record company was out of Philly. And I said to him, "Have you played this song for anybody else?" He said, "Yeah. I just come from Al Martino's house." I said, "Well, what did Al think of it?" He said he liked it, but he think it would be a good song for an album.
Interesting.
So I took it, and 3 days later, I came into the city, Bell Sound Studios. I did 7 takes on it. I waited until 4 o'clock in the morning with the acetate so I could take it back to Philly. I played it constantly. I just thought this song was the best song I've ever had offered to me.
What was it? Was it just that you fell in love with the song musically, or you sensed a hit? Or both?
Both. Yeah, I just loved the song. I thought the melody was wonderful. The message was just great. And when we were going, Pete DeAngelis wrote the arrangement. And, of course, Bob Marcucci was my manager. And we were driving into New York. He was driving Bob, and Pete was in the back with the guitar and, learning the song and more feel to it, this, that, whatever. And he said, wait till you hear the arrangement. I said, Pete, but what do you mean wait till I hear the arrangement? I said, you haven't heard it. He said, yeah, I wrote it. I said, but you haven't heard it yet. He said, I got it in my head.
It's great.
Yeah. And we went into the studio, and it was just magic.
And how many records did Venus sell? A lot.
Oh, I wish I got paid for as many as it
Yeah,
sold.
I'll bet. And that's the Teen Idol thing. Basically, starts to happen at that point.
No, before that.
Before Venus.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I'll never forget calling Dick Clark on the show live, the American Bandstand, and he said, Frankie, you got anything new coming out? I said, I've got a song coming out, Dick, and I think I love this song, and I hope that the kids like it too. And he said, what's the name of it? I said, it's called Venus.
And now, what was happening with that movie, The Idol Maker?
Yeah.
Well, that's based on Bob Marcucci.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
Ray Sharkey and Peter Gallagher.
Yeah, and critically acclaimed movie.
It's a good movie.
Yes, very good movie.
Taylor Hackford.
What happened in that, Fabian had come to me and said, we ought to sue because they really took our lives without any saying yes to, or any kind of a deal,
The Tommy D character is based on
Me.
you, and the Peter Gallagher character.
Right, it's Fabian.
Right.
And I said, Fabe, I can't do it. This guy made my life. How can I do that? And not really knowing that if I sued, it really wouldn't be Bob Marcucci. It would have been Transamerica or the studio, But for some reason, I said, I can't do it. He made my whole life, And I didn't. Fabe wound up suing and got some money out of it, but I didn't.
Nothing in the movie is. I've heard you say you distance yourself from the way the characters portrayed that things didn't really happen that way.
No. They made me a pill popping kind of a guy, and I wasn't. I was a working trumpet player.
Right.
And do you remember the song from the movie?
I don't. I haven't seen it in years.
Baby, I just want to take you where I'm going.
Really?
Peter Gallagher sings that.
Oh, that was the Fabian character.
Yeah. Interesting guy, though, Bob Marcucci.
Oh,
Interesting
yeah.
life. And he was the Idol Maker.
He really was. I mean,
Yeah.
when he found me and started and had belief, why, I don't know, but he had belief. And I was dating a little gal in the neighborhood there, and she was in junior high school, and she said, there's a kid in our school here the girls just go crazy for. And I said, what's his name? She said, Fabian. I said, Fabian. All of a sudden, all I know is that Bob Marcucci found him in the neighborhood. His father had a heart attack.
Oh, and there's an ambulance parked on the street?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a strange story.
Yeah, and Fabian is standing outside waiting for the ambulance or whatever, and Bob Marcucci sees this good-looking kid because he was a combination of Elvis and Ricky Nelson, good-looking boy. And Bob signed him and started it. He made
no musical background whatsoever.
No,
just
no.
a kid sitting on a stoop.
Right.
On a street.
But you know what? He Fabe all through his career, and even to this day, because we do a show called Golden Boys, and it's Bobby Rydell and Fabian and myself, three guys from the neighborhood, and he's still as popular as ever. He had a quality that people just loved, He says, I'm not the greatest singer, but he does a great job on stage. They love him. They stand when he finishes his set on the.
He had a big
show.
career.
Yeah.
So Why was a hit, and Venus was a hit, and Dee Dee Dinah was a hit, and you're getting mail, lots of mail.
12,000 pieces like a week or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
But what's interesting about the song "Why"? That's the last #1 song that ended the decade of the 50s. It was December 31st. It was #1.
Interesting.
1959.
So with the 12,000 pieces of fan mail a week,
Yeah.
the studios come calling, and
That's what happened.
yeah.
Warner Brothers says, hey, this kid, he's got a following. Let's get him in with a major star, and he'll bring in some young people.
Did it have something to do with the fact that Elvis was doing movies at that point? And they
Probably.
thought, yeah.
Probably. And I went in and I did my first picture called Guns of the Timberland with Alan Ladd.
That's great.
Yeah. Jeannie Crane, Gilbert Rowland. And, it started my whole... And it was the first movie that was written and produced by Aaron Spelling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who was a young producer who hadn't done anything to that point.
Right.
Now, jumping up ahead, how did you get that part in Grease?
That's really something. First of all, I had seen Grease here on Broadway. I did a promotion. I was playing the Copacabana, which was like the spot to play. And they had asked me to do this promotional thing, a marketing thing, a tie-in. And I went to the theater, wherever the theater was playing at. And I met the cast at the time, and I watched the play, and years went by, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. And I was playing golf at Lakeside Country Club, and I come off the first 9. I went in to get some cold drink, and my manager was there, and he says, I got the script, Paramount wants you for this picture. I said, what is it? He says, it's called Grease. I said, what role? He said, Teen Angel. I said, forget it. And I went and I played the back 9. I come back in, and he's still there. He says, they will not accept no. They said, at least would you please come in and talk with them? I said, all right. So I go to Paramount, and we're sitting around the table with Alan Carr, the producer, and Stigwood, and the director, Randall Kleiser. And he says to me, why don't you want to do this? I said, listen, fellas, I love the show. It was great. But, the character of Teen Angel is an extension of Elvis. And I'm not that. I've got a style that I sing. And in the play, he's all in black and long sideburns. They said, we'll change it. We want you for this role. So they changed it. And I got by a piano, and I did my rendition of the song. They put it all in white. I'm all in white and all this other stuff. 6 days rehearsal on the sound stage and 2 days of shooting a 5-minute song. So they really took time with it. And I didn't think anything of it. I did 4 takes on it.
And you were concerned that they were going to make you look like a joke.
Very much so. I said, look, I don't want to be treated and handled like, when I come on this screen that, this is a joke, Well, the thing that just thrilled me to death was when they previewed the screening in Hawaii, believe it or not. The writer, I can't remember her name, but a very big writer, wrote the article and review of the picture and said, when Frankie Avalon comes on the screen, there's a yell. When Frankie Avalon leaves the screen, there's an applause.
Well, it's a great, funny little song, and you sing it. You have to sing it straight in a way, but you also have to play the comedy.
Oh, right.
Which you do. I mean, you're singing songs about a hooker. Your only customer is a hooker.
Right.
I'm going to the big malt shop in the sky. But you find the laughs. I mean, it had to be sung by somebody that could do comedy.
Well, what's amazing about that, even today, I mean, I'll meet someone who's 12, 13 years old. They know that picture. That picture goes on forever. It's amazing. I have met people that have said to me, I've seen that picture. They count 63 times, 28 times, And if it's on television, if you are surfing the channels and you see Grease, you'll stay with it.
Oh, my wife's obsessed with it.
You don't get off it.
Yeah.
It's an amazing. And now when I'm being directed by Randall Kleiser, second day of shooting, he comes to me and says, Frankie, do you remember me at all? And I said, from what? He said, the beach pictures. I said, no. He said, I was one of the extras.
Oh, wow.
So he was an extra in our beach.
Interesting. He directed The Blue Lagoon, too, and a couple other popular movies.
And you worked with another great comedian, Milton Berle.
Oh, another genius. I mean, just terrific. He knew everything. He from the music to the cue cards to the sketches. He was just brilliant. And not only he would call me at times to say, "Let's go to the motion picture home." he was really an advocate of doing shows. And, you'd go in there and I would see Larry Fine of the Three Stooges, who had a stroke. And, and I would, do, in those days, I was not only playing the trumpet, but I was doing a lot of impressions. I would do. And,
what impressions did you do?
I did all of them. And I ended up doing it.
We can't let you get away with this.
The one that I would do, and I learned step for step the Cagney dance in Yankee Doodle Dandy. And my whole bit was the fact that it would play da 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 Hollywood, and my piano player would start playing boom 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 boom, and he would say, and I would say, but actors have to make auditions and to get the part, and he would say okay, and I would step back, and he would say. Mr. Wayne, Mr. John Wayne, and I would do the walk, and I'd say, well, what do you want, kid? He'd say, are you ready to do your part? Well, you're damn right I am. And I would do Wayne, I would do this one, that one, and at the end I would do, I'm a Yankee Doodle Janji, and then I learned how to do the dance, and I would finish the dance, and it was, all right, I'm a Yankee Doodle guy. So I would do that, and...
I got to twist your arm, and what was some more of the voices?
Who would I do? These were mostly visual things.
Yes,
I would do
yeah.
Dracula.
Oh,
good
great.
evening, welcome. I can play the part. I don't know.
Gilbert does a little Dracula himself.
Dude, let me hear it.
Okay, got to drink some water.
Look at dueling vampires here.
Listen to them. Children of the night.
They are.
What music they make. I can't believe we're doing...
Don't be afraid. Sometimes in our dreams, the mind plays strange tricks.
A spider spinning its web for an unwary prey. The blood is the life, Mr. Enfield.
Mr. Renfield. Spelled backwards, what was it?
Yeah.
Was No,
Dracula was Alucard.
Oh,
that's it.
In Son of Franken,
right.
Son of Dracula.
Wasn't that John Carradine?
Lon Chaney Jr.
Oh, Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great picture.
So
I can't believe that me and Frankie Avalon are doing
impressions.
dueling Bela Lugosi.
But the best one I do,
yes.
nobody does it. And I do this for Rydell, which he falls off his chair. Edwin.
Oh, great.
Perfect fool.
There he goes. Okay. My son Keenan. Well, I'll tell you this. He's really a good actor,
Edwin.
And I can't believe I stumbled on a Dracula line, so I have to do it again. Listen, a spider spinning its web for an unwary fly. The blood is the life, Mr. Enfield.
It's great.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And remember when he would come down the steps?
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, and he walked down, and the girl was always screaming, someone's been in my room, Don't be afraid. Sometimes in our dreams, the mind plays strange. You need the sedative, he would say.
Oh, yes.
You need the sedative. Yeah. That's great.
You mentioned John Wayne. Go ahead, Gil.
Oh, did you ever work with Lugosi?
No, he was gone by then, yeah.
You're talking about John Wayne before.
Yeah.
And so, again, you do the Teen Idol thing. That's exploding. Mm-hmm. The studios want you. Mm-hmm. You do the Alan Ladd picture. And now, the Alamo.
Yeah. The Alamo, he had called Warner Brothers, and he wanted to see some of the dailies that I was doing with the Alan Ladd.
And he
picture.
directed that picture, too, John Wayne.
Produced it, directed
Mm-hmm.
it. And he liked what I did and thought that, I was about, so we made that picture in 59, so I was like 19, but I was playing like 14, And he put me in the picture and had a great friendship with him. It was really amazing is that my wife, sister, was married to his son, Michael, who produced a lot of his films.
Interesting.
So I really got to know the family, and of course, working with the Duke, he was tough, boy. He was. I mean, if you didn't know your lines or whatever, I mean, he had Lawrence Harvey in tears. The only guy he didn't fool with was Richard Widmark, because Widmark was such a pro,
They were good to you. I heard you say.
Just terrific.
Yeah,
Just
what
terrific.
was Richard Widmark like in person?
You know what? He was a very quiet man. He really only hung out with me and the two guys that I brought with me. Because, I never wanted to leave the neighborhood. I felt very comfortable with Hucklebuck, which was a guy that I grew up with. And a guy by the name of Eddie Cadamo worked in the bakery shop. And Sonny Troy was my guitar player. And we're South Philly kids, We're doing a picture in Brackettville, Texas, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, can imagine.
And we would go to the commissary, eat. They built the whole Alamo, replica of the Alamo. And we would come back from, and we'd say, "What's that snake?" Just to kind of tease one another until one time we were coming back and Sonny Troy said, "Watch that snake, I swear my mother." When he said that, there was a snake, because that you knew that he wasn't fibbing then.
Now, another person I have to get to from all your beach movies was Eric Von Zipper, played by Harvey Lembeck.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell us about Harvey?
Yeah, well, I first met Harvey. I worked with Harvey in a picture that I did over at Columbia called Sail a Crooked Ship with Ernie Kovacs and Robert Wagner.
Yeah, we have to ask you about Ernie Kovacs, too.
Yeah, and he was in the picture. And then finally, when we started to do our first beach party picture, he had been around and as a comedy actor, as a serious as Style Like 17. But what was interesting about him was he created that character. It wasn't written like that. He took all of those kids that were the rats, Von Zipper and his rats. Mm-hmm. And while we'd be shooting some scene, whatever, he'd be in the other part of a sound stage, whatever, putting all those things together, all those "you stupids," give him the finger and all this. He did all that himself. So he created that character, which became very important in all of our pictures. He was a great guy. I'll never forget, we were shooting some of the pictures, and he would come in and he'd say, and he was also an acting teacher, comedy. And he would come in and he'd say, "Jesus, I got this kid that is just the funniest. What a talent, what a talent, what a talent." Kept raving about him. Finally, it wound up to be Ritter.
John Ritter.
John Ritter.
He said, "This kid does pratfalls, he's funny faces." That he just raved about him. Of course, John Ritter became a major actor.
Yeah, I did
Comedy.
2 movies. Yeah,
But not
from
only, but
John.
television. John Ritter, with the Three's Company and all that stuff.
Another comedian that I have to ask you about is Don Rickles.
Oh, I love Don. Don was so thrilled to get into the movies. He did one picture. It was called the one with Clark Gable.
Oh, Run Silent, Run Deep.
Yeah. And he tells a great story about, he had one line and there's some, and Gable turns to him and says, "I'm going to tell you." And Rickles was supposed to say something. He went like this. But Rickles, geez, I loved working with him. And his mother, I just loved his mother, Etta. She used to make me the best sandwiches, chicken liver sandwiches. He'd bring them on the set, and well, we had a lot of good times together.
Rickles' mother would prepare lunch for him and you?
Yeah, in a brown bag, Yeah. And, for 12 to 14 hours a day, there were nothing but laughs. He never stopped, and he was just on all the time.
There were a lot of great comics in those pictures, in the beach pictures.
And I heard Rickles was very close to his mother.
Oh, Etta, absolutely, yeah. And, he would do an impression of his mother. She adored him, and he loved her, and it was great. I'd go he lived in an apartment at the time. I took him to play golf one time. I took him to Lakeside. He figures, And in those days, they had these anti-Semitic clubs, and I take him in, and he says, "I'm the Jew." In the clubhouse, he would yell all over the place, Funny guy.
Jesse White, Buddy Hackett, Maury Amsterdam, Paul Lynn, Harvey Lembeck we talked about, and Buster Keaton. There were so many great comics in the beach movies.
We'd sit around the set with Buster Keaton. Mike, can you imagine it? He would tell us stories how he started his own studio.
Sure.
he thought up all of the gags, the things, the comedy routines, and wrote everything, and how he lost everything and was really broke, and doing our pictures and loved to do movies, and wanted to do his own little pratfalls and off the chairs and things,
Wasn't that how he got the nickname Buster? Because as a child actor,
From
he was
Houdini.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
His parents used to pick him up when he was a little kid and throw him on stage, smash him against the wall, swing him around, and Harry Houdini said to them, "You ought to nickname this kid Buster."
That's funny. Well, it fit perfectly, didn't it? Wow.
This is in the latter years. I mean, he was doing the Candid Camera shows then, and he was the biggest star in the world.
He was like Chaplin.
Yeah.
I mean, in that.
And he was no young man when he was doing the movies with you.
I think I figured it out. He must have been about 65.
And he was doing pratfalls and everything.
Yeah, he wanted to do his own stuff, And anything that he did, the crew and the cast would watch him and applaud.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear.
The appreciation of this talent,
And there was another young talent in a couple of the beach pictures, little Stevie Wonder.
Oh, gee. In meeting Stevie Wonder, he was rehearsing and kind of doing some takes on the song he did. He was little Stevie Wonder. So finally, we're on a break and we're sitting down. He said, "Can I touch your face?" He says to me. I said, "Sure, Stevie," because that's the only way you could feel what I look like, And I stayed there, and he looked at me, but he put his hands all over my face, felt my nose, my eyes, and everything, which was kind of really interesting.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah.
Because in movies, there's always the dramatic, touching moment where someone says, "Can I touch your face?" And I always thought, the blind people really do that.
Yeah, he did to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was watching some Muscle Beach Party with Stevie, and Buddy Hackett's the spoiled rich kid, and he's on the phone. He's trying to buy Sicily, and he has that great line. He says, "All right, buy half. Let Sinatra have the other half." And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking, it's not every movie that has Buddy Hackett, Stevie Wonder, and a Bond girl.
A Bond girl?
It was Luciana Paluzzi.
Luciana Paluzzi. Yeah,
Paluzzi
beautiful
from Thunderball.
We're doing a scene and on the beach, and it's a night scene. I'd come in from night surfing, and those days you'd smoke in the scene or something, And all of a sudden, I'm kind of wandering away from Annette at this point, And we get to talking, and she really has the hots for Frankie, And we get to the last part of the scene is where we embrace, and I got a wetsuit on, a big yellow wetsuit, and I take her in my arms, and I'm kissing her, and I'm waiting for the director, Bill Asher, cut. Okay, that's a print, whatever. And we're kissing and kissing and kissing and kissing and kissing and kissing. Finally, after I don't know how long it was, I look. The crew, everybody left the set.
Right. You were telling us they were quickies. I mean, you made these films in
15 days.
15 days. Yeah. Each one of them. Yeah. American International Pictures.
Yeah.
And what else do you remember about Buddy Hackett?
Well, I felt as though Buddy Hackett and Don Rickles were really in competition with one another.
Oh, yeah.
On the set, Who tried to be funnier, And, they were both very funny guys, But they got along well, and Buddy was a little nuts.
Yeah, we've had other guests tell us that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember one thing. I'd come into work, and I was doing a picture too at the same time. I was doing a picture called Sergeant Deadhead, and I was commuting from Las Vegas. I was playing at the Sands. I was under contract at the Sands at the time. And Sammy Davis said to me, "You're doing a picture and doing this?" He said, "I got the answer for you." He said, "Here's what you do," because I would fly in after a day's shoot, and be on stage by 8:15, opening because I was the singer for like Alan King or somebody like that. And I couldn't get on another flight until 6 in the morning. So by the time the second show was done, 12:30, 1 o'clock, I couldn't sleep. So Sammy said to me, here's what you do. You get an ambulance. He said, and after your second show, get in the ambulance. It'll be air-conditioned. You get on the cot there, and you tell the driver 6 to 7 hours, and you sleep. You get to the studio, you shower, and you do your day's work. And I did, and it worked for me. It was really a great suggestion Sammy gave me,
Now, Gilbert owns a strange item in his house. He has a life mask of Vincent Price. So we have to ask you about Vincent Price.
Yeah,
and,
I have life masks of Vincent Price, Bela Lugosi, and Lon Chaney Jr.
Wow, what a trio, huh?
And you worked with Vincent Price on Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine?
Yeah. What a gentleman. What a gentleman. And again, a pro. And, a connoisseur of wines, paintings, and a brilliant man. Just sit down and listen to him tell stories or talk, was just a thrill for me, He was very nice man.
Does it ever occur to you you're on the set of these movies and I'm here with Vincent Price and Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine? You're thinking, I'm a trumpet player. I'm a serious musician.
Right. Exactly,
How did I get here?
I don't know. I just went along with everything. It just amazes me, Gilbert, you get in front of audiences. You play in front of 50,000, 75,000 people, 1 million people, 100 million people, and you just don't think of it. Yeah, you're scared, you're shaking, but you ain't showing it. That's what we do.
But I mean, one day you're in South Philly playing the trumpet, and then you're fighting a sea monster with Walter Pidgeon and Peter Lorre.
Right, exactly. Not only that, getting on a horse. The only horse I got on was at the end of the street for a dime. You went up and down.
Did you take acting lessons when the movie career started?
Yeah, I really did.
Okay.
I came to New York here and I studied
threw yourself
with
into it.
A fellow by the name of Win Handman. He was a very good teacher. As a matter of fact, he taught Red Buttons and a lot of the big guys. And then when I went out to Hollywood and started doing a lot of pictures, I studied at Columbia. So, yeah.
And I heard Vincent Price didn't like Dr. Goldfoot.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, see, now I'm letting you in on.
Yeah. I wonder why. I mean, he had a lot of fun doing it. We were up in San Francisco doing it. It was a cute little picture. I loved working with Fred Clark. Wow, was he terrific.
Another funny guy.
Yeah. And you also, because you mentioned it before, I kind of wonder if you worked with him, too. Edwin's son,
Keenan. Yeah.
You worked with Keenan?
Keenan, we did, I think, Bikini Beach or one of them, where he played the old guy. What do these kids know? What are they doing?
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
He was always a fun actor.
Oh, yeah, very good actor.
Like him in The Great Race with Tony Curtis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And Jack Lemmon.
So, you see some of those old black and white pictures that he was in as a real good actor, very serious actor.
And about you, since you mentioned Ernie Kovacs, and Gilbert and I know very little about Ernie Kovacs. We haven't had anybody on the show talk about Ernie Kovacs.
Well, I don't think too many people really know about Ernie Kovacs, including myself. I mean, I've worked with him, and of course, you do scenes with him and all this other stuff. I played his nephew in the picture, but he was quite the gambler. And if he wasn't on the set doing scenes, he was in his dressing room playing gin with some heavy players. They were betting some big Mervyn LeRoy, the director, these guys, and we'd have to wait for him to, finish a game or something to get out of his dressing room.
I just got a flashback.
What's that?
There was a TV movie about Ernie Kovacs starring
Jeff Goldblum.
Yep. And what's her name from Cloris Leachman as his mother.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know Cloris Leachman played his mother. I remember
Jeff
Goldblum playing Ernie Kovacs.
Yeah.
Well, the worst
and he passed away soon after you made that picture.
What happened was this. I was out promoting for Columbia. Sailor Crooked Ship was the name of the film. And while I was out there doing television, doing radio, promoting the picture, I had gotten the word that he was in a car accident and died. On Sunset Boulevard in the rain. He was driving his Rolls Royce and lost control, hit a tree or pole, and was killed.
Yeah.
Great talent.
He was one of those that's always credited for realizing stuff is on film, and you can do tricks. You could do things that you can't do in vaudeville.
Yeah, well, he was an innovator. I mean, a lot of the stuff that's developed through the years, he did things, silly things, but they were brilliant things, dripping water things and music that comes. I mean,
the Nairobi Trio.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Because other performers were just doing film stage shows.
Right.
And he took advantage.
Yeah. He was big in television. He was another Philadelphian. He was from Philly. Started at one of the local television stations and then developed and went on to big networks.
And you worked with Bob Hope.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Loved working with Bob Hope. Did a picture called
I'll Take Sweden.
I'll Take Sweden. Yeah. And
that was the theme song.
I'll take Sweden, yeah. I'll make Sweden home, sweet home. Yeah, but he was a great guy. And when we did that picture, what really was neat about him that I think about, first day of shooting, everybody's uptight. I don't care who you are, what you are, but, you're in the makeup room and you're getting made up. And I was getting made up, and Hope walked in, and next chair over, he's getting made up. He talks to everybody, he tells a joke, this and that. And he looks over to me, and then he says, Jesus, I'm really nervous today. I just the first day I get so nervous. He was trying to relax me and who else, But he wasn't nervous. Come on, he was Bob Hope, And every shot that we did, the opening day of day's work, he would get in front of the crew and tell at least 2 to 3 jokes and then start shooting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, I have to get to this because I get to this on just about every one of my podcasts. Mm-hmm. You worked with Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
A few times.
Watch it, Frankie.
Okay.
Here's the story I heard about Cesar Romero, legendary song and dance man and Latin lover, that in person he was gay. And to quote Jerry Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that. But I heard, the story that I heard was that he would gather like these young boy toys around him, and he'd pull down his pants and underwear and have them all fling orange wedges at his ass.
I wish you could see Frankie Avalon's face, folks.
Now, are you making that up?
I wish we were on videotape. He asked Adam West the same question.
The only argument I've gotten, some people say it was tangerine wood.
I want to get that.
You know what? I've never heard that. Honestly, I worked with him. I did Sergeant Deadhead. I did I don't know how many pictures with him.
Skidoo.
3 or 4 Skidoo.
Yeah.
But I had heard that he was gay. I never saw anything at all. Never saw any young toys around.
Yes.
Nothing like that. As a matter of fact, we went to a strip joint one time with Arnold Stang and Cesar Romero. So
you buried the lead, Frankie.
Yeah.
A strip joint with Cesar Romero and Arnold Stang.
But is it true that half of the budget of that movie went to buying citrus fruit?
It makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your part in Casino and working with Scorsese and De Niro. That had to be.
What happened was this. It was a weekend. It was like a Friday or Saturday, and I was at home with my wife and kids, and the phone rings, and my wife comes over to me. She said, "It's for you. It's a Bobby De Niro." She didn't know. She figures it's a guy from South Philly. It's Bobby De Niro. So I get on the phone. He says, "Hey, Frankie, we're doing this picture, and you were the first guest on Lefty's show. And, Marty likes to be right on target with the reality of it." He said, "Would you come in and do that scene that you did? Because we have the tape of it when you first did it." I said, "When you want me to do it?" He said, "How's Monday?" I said, "I'm off." So I flew in, and I sat with Marty Scorsese, and I looked at the film, and word for word, I did exactly what I did on the Lefty show.
Ace Rothstein was based
Right.
on.
Yeah, right. And De Niro, very much into his character. I mean, when we were shooting all day, It took us about 12 hours, and Pesci and I have been friends for a long time, and Pesci was waiting for me so we can get some meatballs at Joe Pig's place. So as I'm working with De Niro, he's very much in the camera. He says, Frankie, there's cameras all over. Marty's got cameras up there, this, that, whatever. So he's filming us from all angles. I said, okay. So all he wanted to talk to me about was, how's Annette Funicello? Yeah, she's great. Cut. Is she still married? Or, all he wanted to know was Annette. He must have been a fan of hers.
He must have been.
Yeah.
Or just a fan of the Mouseketeers.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you do an imitation of either Martin Scorsese or Robert?
No, I can't. No, can you?
No, I'm sometimes I do Martin Scorsese.
The man does
But I'll
Cagney
say-
and Lugosi. Isn't that
Yes,
enough for you?
yes.
And can Ed win?
Ed Wynn, yeah.
Frankie, have you written a memoir? You've got to write a memoir. You've got to write a book. So many stories.
Oh, God, I can go on forever, ever. Yeah.
Has it occurred to you? Have you thought about it?
At times, yeah. There's so many different aspects of, thank God, a long-lasting career, We talk about movies.
Sure, but I think even people would be fascinated by the Idolmaker stuff and that
all
whole
that stuff. Yeah.
And I think you're mentioned, if I'm pronouncing it, I can't even say pronunciating it correctly, that you're mentioned in the Wu-Tang Clan.
You got it. Yes.
What?
Wu-Tang Clan.
What's
Which is
that?
It's a hip hop rap group that mentions you in one of their lyrics.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that shows how you're still relevant.
Well, good.
Today,
I like
you
that.
are. Yeah.
Well, that's very nice. I mean, I'm a guy that I don't watch much television. I go to a movie now and then or whatever.
You did American Idol a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
But we'll go out. My wife and I will be out, and there'll be somebody, and she'll say to me, "You know who that is?" I said, "No, I don't." She said, "That's a big star." I said, "I don't know. I'm sorry." And they'll come over to me. "Hi, Frankie. How are you? I'm a fan or this or that, whatever." It's really nice. But I don't know a lot of the people today.
It's been a journey, though, Frank, huh? From crashing a party at Al Martino's house
all the
to
way,
working with Keaton and
I know.
Lucy and John Wayne and Groucho and Keaton and I said Buster Keaton
And Bing Crosby.
And Crosby. I mean, do you pinch yourself?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, just in awe of these people. To work with Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
Wow, what a thrill that was. And you want to talk about a master. We had been, he had a television show, and I was with Vicky Carr. We were playing Young Marrieds. And after one of the takes that we did, one of the producers came over and said, Bing, we got to do this PS spot, public service announcement there. And they had the cue cards, and he said, okay, let me see it. And they put up the cue cards and the camera on the side of the camera, and he went, okay, take him away. Hi, Bing Crosby here. Well, now, I want to say this. And he started to do word for word. I'm saying, look at. So I said, Bing, you looked at it once, and you just did the whole thing. He said, well, when you get to be doing as long as I am, you'll do the same thing. Not really.
Wow. And he does Bing, too.
And there's one other actor I had to bring up who's known primarily, another actor who's known primarily as Jerry Seinfeld's Uncle Leo, and that's this actor Len Lesser. I don't know if you remember him at all.
Oh, I think he was in a couple of the beach pictures.
Yes.
You know what? I do remember him.
Yeah.
He's a neat guy.
He's in Kelly's Heroes, a Clint Eastwood picture. He's pretty prominent in that picture.
Yeah, but he was in a picture we did called Fireball 500.
That's right.
I played Dave Owens, the Fireball, whatever it was. And he was in that picture, yeah. I remember him, yeah. You know who was another wild guy actor? Timothy Carey.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Oh, I'll tell you.
From the Wild One. Yeah.
And the one with Kirk Douglas, the World War I movie.
Oh, Paths of Glory.
Paths of Glory. Boy,
right.
you know your pictures, don't you?
Well, I
Frank?
researched the guests.
Wow.
Convicts 4 with Ben Gazzara.
That's right.
He was in.
But what was the one where the roach was? Wasn't that where he was in the jail cell and he smacked the roach?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of which one that was.
Yeah, very odd looking.
Strange
odd
guy.
looking.
Yeah.
Strange guy. And we were doing one scene in one of the beach things, and he played South Dakota Slim, Minnesota Fat, South Dakota Slim. And come on, Bobby. And we were doing this one scene, and Bill Astor, our director, all he had to do was open a door, and everybody would go down this little chute, but he jumped up, cut. Bill would say, Tim, we don't need all that. Just open the door. The gag is to fall down there. But he will, okay, and action. He wouldn't. He had to let him go. And it really made the scene, I think, because he stuck to his guns there.
Yeah, then Brando used him again in One-Eyed Jacks, the one picture he directed.
Good actor. He would come in and tell us strange stories about his wife having a baby, and he delivered the baby and bit off the umbilical cord, and I mean, really.
Well, this has been Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal podcast with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and I'm Gilbert Gottfried thanking my fellow teen idol.
Frank, is there anything you want to plug before we run off?
No, let me see. What am I? No, I'm with the Golden Boys, Dick Fox's Golden Boys, and it's Bobby Rydell and Fabian and myself, and we do about 15, 20 concerts a year, and I'm still out there myself. I still do that. I've got a book coming out, not about my memoirs or any of that, but it's a cookbook because I love to cook, and it's for St. Martin's Publications, so that'll be out pretty soon.
Oh, and you told me that former teen idol Bobby Rydell does an imitation of me?
Loves you, does lines, jokes, and everything, and he's perfect. You got to have him on the show.
I have to.
Well,
just
I got to hear that.
Yeah.
I got to hear Bobby Rydell.
And I'll tell you, one of the most talented guys, funny guys. I mean, he does it all. I just love Bobby Rydell. He's a real dear friend.
It's been great, Frank. Thanks
Hey,
for joining
thanks,
us.
Frank.
Been
and
great.
Thanks,
He's
Gilbert.
still handsome, still
And versatile.
and versatile, and a guy who can challenge me to a Lugosi imitation. And he confirmed the Cesar Romero story.
Right.
Yes, he was there. Frankie Avalon was there when Cesar Romero had orange wedges flung at his ass. He was there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you,
Thank you, Gilbert.
Frankie
Thank you, Frank, for
Avalon.
having me. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.